So today we have a big news day. One of them is J.K. Rowling is involved with Harry Potter. The PlayStation 5 Slim is going on sale for $380 on Black Friday. And also, Miyamoto doesn't think he's a genius. But before we get into that, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And watch the video all the way through. It tells the algorithm you want other people to watch the video. Let's get into it. So this is kind of one of the shorter stories of the day. Like, it really wasn't supposed to be a huge story, but I think it's kind of funny. The PlayStation 5 Slim consoles will drop to $380 for Black Friday sale this year, even though the announcement video was deleted. Sony recently unveiled a Play Has No Limits PS5 ad promoting a special holiday price for the PlayStation 5 digital at $379. The deal set to run through Black Friday and expire after December 27th, served as an official confirmation of a significant PS5 Black Friday offer. However, the original YouTube video has since been removed and replaced with a new Play Has No Limits trailer that omits any mention of potential sales details, leaving open questions about the promotion. We managed to capture a screenshot of the detail before the video was removed, which you can see below. I think that Sony didn't really expect to announce it anytime soon. Black Friday they probably were gonna announce it like a couple of days or like a week before Black Friday, but somebody made an oopsie on the inside and unfortunately let out that they were gonna have a sale sometime in the near future. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think that PlayStation is going to actually cut the PlayStation price, or do you think that it's gonna be one of those things that they accidentally like kind of had like a, how do you say it? They had an idea of what they wanted to do, but at the same time weren't sure if they were actually going to do it. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I think they're actually going to cut the price. It's been a long time coming for the PlayStation 5 to get a cut. By this point, the PlayStation 4 had already gone through major cuts, but that was a different economy. And now that everything's kind of stabilizing, I think they're gonna cut the price for sure. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. So J.K. Rowling is a great writer. Whether you like her or not, she's made some of the best books, or one of the best series like ever. And that is not even a did she or didn't she? She did. Even though she's been in some controversies recently with trans rights and with the rights of trans people and saying some really transphobic things, that doesn't take away from the fact that she's a good writer. So to the dismay, or maybe people like this, J.K. Rowling's fairly involved in the new Harry Potter series. I imagine she'll have opinions on casting, says HBO. As HBO gears up for its upcoming Harry Potter TV show, it's also had to face questions surrounding the involvement of author J.K. Rowling. HBO and Max boss Casey Bloys fielded the last of these questions at a press conference on Tuesday, clarifying that she's been fairly involved in the series' early development. During a Q&A with reports, one brought up the controversy surrounding Rowling, who has been posting anti-transgender rhetoric on X/Twitter since 2020. The reporter asked Bloys how involved Rowling has been in the series and if her passion views about trans issues have affected HBO's ability to find its cast. She's been fairly involved, Bloys responded. She was very involved in the process of selecting the writer and director, and I imagine she'll have opinions on casting. It hasn't affected the casting or hinting of writers or production staff, so we haven't felt impact from that. So take that as you will. J.K. Rowling will be heavily involved with the HBO Harry Potter TV show that is coming around. Look, I think that this is a positive, because none of these books really hit on any of the things that she's been transphobic about or kind of controversial about. So when it comes to Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling knows her universe really well. She knows what should be in the series. She was heavily involved with the movies, and the movies were really, really good. Now she's gonna get essentially a remake / director's cut of her movie with new casting. And they really did a really good job when it came to casting in the first movie. So I wouldn't say this is a bad thing. I know a lot of people hate her, and I know a lot of people despise J.K. Rowling, which I don't really blame you if you do or don't. But I see this as a positive, and I really hope that this is a positive for the show, because it really has the potential to be something really great. Like, I'm talking about Lord of the Rings really good, like in terms of how iconic and how many awards those shows won. Like, I don't know if you've seen the show Succession, but if you haven't, the producers that are involved with that show are going to be involved with this show as well. So there's a lot of good things going for it. So like, and yeah, like, so let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing? Do you think J.K. Rowling is going to ruin this series or make this series better, or you think it's going to be both? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. So it's not any secret that George R. R. Martin has had some like up and down relationships when it comes to HBO. To be honest with you, HBO has given George R. R. Martin a lot, and George R. R. Martin hasn't really given much to HBO when it comes to him finishing his works or kind of staying on schedule. To be honest with you, like he's kind of been really bad the past, like, since I've been in high school and since before that, in releasing his books. So HBO's boss wants Game of Thrones creator George R. R. Martin happy, but marriage can be difficult. We love George R. R. Martin, obviously, and Game of Thrones really changed the course of HBO, had a huge impact on it, so we want him to be happy. It's very important to us. Bloys said, but when we put shows together, you're putting a marriage together, and marriages can be difficult, especially when showrunner Ryan Condal is making creative decisions adapting work. It can be fraught, and like any marriage, sometimes it gets rocky. Would I prefer that everybody gets along and it goes well? Of course, but it's a creative process and it's always going to have bumps, and that's to be expected. Martin slammed the changes made to House of Dragon Season 2 in a blog in September, which was quickly removed. Mac responded with a statement saying that the showrunner ultimately is required to make difficult choices about the characters and stories the audience will follow. Martin has been quiet on the subject since, talking about a potential return for Arya Stark actress Maisie Williams and writing about his desire for Bravo's Game of Thrones story, but only when Winds of Winter is done, which, to be honest with you, is more than likely never. I don't expect Winds of Winter to be finished, and I don't expect A Dream of Spring to ever be finished as well. If we do get Winds of Winter, expect to be on a lifelong cliffhanger that he'll never finish. It's just, I don't think he's ever going to finish the series at all. But like I said, I really understand where George R. R. Martin was coming from. Like, he's a purist. He wants his full art to be on display, and he wants it to look the way he intended it. But shows can't always give you what you want, especially when it's not going to translate onto screen when it comes to story and when it comes to budget. It's just the way it is, and it's the way it always has been. Lord of the Rings is not a one-on-one adaptation to the books, unfortunately, and for reasons being that it doesn't translate on the screen well when it comes to budget and story, and it didn't make sense to do so in a short amount of a movie. So like with Game of Thrones, I understand that it was kind of a shit show towards the end of the seasons. The first 6 seasons of that show are some of the best on TV ever made, and the reason why it's so bad is not only because of the showrunners, is because of the fact that George R. R. Martin never finished his books. One of the reasons why he's unhappy is because of his own fault. George R. R. Martin refuses to finish his books on a timely manner, and to be able to understand that yes, not everything is going to go your way, and not everything when it comes to casting and characters are going to be exactly what you want. George R. R. Martin has nobody to blame but himself, and again, I understand as a person, if I put myself in George R. R. Martin's situation, more than likely I would feel the exact same way. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think George R. R. Martin is legit for not having certain characters and being mad that certain characters aren't in there, or do you think he's in the wrong? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I am a huge Metal Gear fan. Like, Metal Gear Solid and all the Metal Gear Solid games are is my favorite series in video games. Probably Metal Gear Solid 3 is my favorite video game of all time. So this story makes me feel extra old. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater exists in part because young gamers aren't familiar with the series anymore, Konami says. Konami has revealed that one of the reasons it greenlit the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is because younger gamers aren't familiar with the series anymore. Speaking to Play and shared by Games Radar, series producer Naoki Okaruma admitted Konami is looking to capture a new audience with the remake, which arrives 20 years after the original Metal Gear Solid 3. Jesus Christ. And 9 years after the mainline entry. That's quite a bit of time, people. One of the things that really sparked us to do the remake in general is because we realized that a lot of the newer, younger generation of gamers aren't familiar with the Metal Gear series anymore, he said. It was basically our mission, our duty, to kind of continue making sure the series lives on for future generations. After all, we leave behind much more than just DNA, as Solid Snake would say. But again, who is Solid Snake? In fact, this is one of the reasons Konami chose the Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta Snake Eater name for the remake, as opposed to simply calling it Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Timeline-wise, Snake Eater is the first game in the series, so going back with the Greek letter Delta helped get this new beginning across. The franchise began in 1987 with Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear, and saw the mainline entry with Kojima's Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. Released in 2015, spin-off Metal Gear Survive launched in 2018, with only collections of older games coming out in subsequent years. So it's easy to understand where Konami is coming from. Metal Gear is well known by the fans of a certain age and has enormous nostalgic potential, but without a brand new mainline entry in the nearly a decade, interest among younger gamers probably isn't where Konami wants it to be. The truth is, Metal Gear has a lot of potential, and it has a lot to offer to the new generations, and it has a message to tell for new generations. Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3 have predicted the future almost perfectly with all the things that it said and had to say. And as a person that is a huge fan of Metal Gear series, it really needs its story to be told, and it really needs to be heard by a new audience desperately. And I really hope Metal Gear Solid Delta is the bridge to that. And not only that, but we kind of need the original mainline series from 1987 Metal Gear to be remade, so that story can be told to a new audience. I know that's a lot more of a challenge, to be honest with you, but we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta is going to open a door to new fans and kind of bring them into this weird, campy, but yet beautiful story of Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. So we all been wondering what's up with Blade, and also what's up with Wanda Maximoff. Is the Scarlet Witch ever going to come back? Well, Kevin Feige had a few things to say about that. Kevin Feige delivers updates on Blade, Scarlet Witch's future, and when Miles Morales will be introduced to the MCU. Marvel Studio boss Kevin Feige has issued a number of somewhat vague but tantalizing updates to various MIA, MCU projects, and characters at D23 Brazil, the same event that showcased the new Thunderbolts and Captain America Brave New World trailers. Let's start with Marvel's Troubled Blade, which film Disney recently delayed from its announced November 2025 release date into some TBA release date. The delay to Blade came as a little surprise given the behind-the-scenes drama it suffered in June. News surfaced that director Jan Damage had left the project, which will see Marshall Ali play the titular Vampire Slayer, should it eventually get off the ground and into production. We're committed to Blade, Feige said. We love the character. We love Marshall Ali's version of him. And rest assured, whenever we change the direction with a project or are starting to trying to figure out how it fits into our schedule, we will let the public know. You're up to date on what's going on, but I can tell you that the character will be coming to the MCU. So according to Feige, Marshall Ali's Blade is still coming out eventually. But what of the future of Elizabeth Olsen's character, Scarlet Witch / Wanda Maximoff? Warning, there's some spoilers to some movies of Multiverse of Madness and Agatha All Along. Scarlet Witch apparently died at the end of 2022's MCU Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and failed to make a dramatic return in the Disney Plus show Agatha All Along. Much to the disappointment of fans, Olsen recently confirmed she'd be up for playing the Scarlet Witch once again, if there's a good way to use her. So has Feige worked out on a good way to use her? Again, speaking to Omelette, Feige gave fans a tease that's already got Scarlet Witch fans excited. We have Agatha Forever on Disney Plus just now, and the series was great for us, he said. Since then, there have been a lot of questions about Wanda on fans' minds. So all I can say is that we're excited to find out when and how Scarlet Witch may return. That's Bay, by the way. Scarlet Witch and Storm they're mine. You can't look at them. Don't look at them. It's not outright confirmation that Scarlet Witch will return to the MCU, but it certainly sounds like Feige wants to make it work. Movie Spider-Man. So Kevin Feige, people have been asking, hey, like when is Miles Morales gonna enter the MCU? And this was his quote: "Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out and Miles will make his debut live action. Like, when will it happen? Miles will appear in the third Spider-Man, which currently in production," Feige told Omelette. "I hope that shortly after that he can enter the MCU in live action." Unfortunately, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse does not have a release date. Indeed, some speculation it won't come out till 2027, so it may be a few years before we see Miles Morales in live action. It's worth noting Tom Holland's Spider-Man 3 comes out July 24th, 2026, just 2 months after Avengers Doomsday. Avengers Secret Wars releases on May 27th, 2027. And finally, Feige has hinted that there also may be time before X-Men makes their long-awaited full-blown entry to the MCU, telling Omelette, "The MCU will be an important part of the future following Secret Wars. When we're prepared for Avengers Endgame years ago, it was a question of getting to the grand finale of our narrative, and then we had to start all over again after that." Feige said, "This time on the road to Secret Wars, we already know very well what the story is going to be. Until then and afterwards, the X-Men are an important part of the future," he commented. So, look, I wouldn't expect the X-Men, like a full-blown X-Men movie, to come out until after Secret Wars. That's not gonna happen. Just like Blade, it's not gonna happen until at least Secret Wars. Like, you'll probably get like a cameo, like a small Miles Morales cameo and a few X-Men in there, but do not expect for full, like, blown, like his own movie with Tom Holland. It's just not gonna happen right now. All of this stuff makes me happy. The only one that I see coming back before Secret Wars ends and not being a cameo character or like a character that just comes out in Secret Wars is more than likely Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. I think they're more than likely going to use her somehow in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited. Like I said, Scarlet Witch is Bae. I love her. She's my favorite, my second favorite to Storm. So we'll see what happens. I am really looking forward to new X-Men. I've been craving X-Men for the longest time now, so we'll see what happens. Let me know what you think in the comment section. What do you know about these changes? What do you think is going to happen? And remember to comment in the comment section below. And now for one of our main stories, Shigeru Miyamoto. What we create is more important than the amount spent on development. During a recent Q&A with investors, Nintendo executive and story designer Shigeru Miyamoto answered a question about the trend of rising development costs, saying that Nintendo creates is far more important than what it spends on development. The question related to raising development costs, asking if Nintendo owns expenses would increase in the future and if the company could mitigate those increases. Miyamoto stepped in to respond, first saying that while cost increases are inevitable and Nintendo is focusing on creating good and unique experiences first, it's quite possible to make great games without spending massive piles of money. Here's his full response. Our research and development expenses have been increasing each year since our scale of development has grown. Corresponding increase in costs, in some respects, inevitable. However, our belief is that what we create is more important than the amount spent on development. We continue refining our products until we are confident that we have created something that our consumers will be satisfied with. With that in mind, what is important is to find ideas that are worth honing. And this has not changed since the era of Nintendo Entertainment System. Everyone has different interests, so we cannot make sweeping statements about what ideas are worth pursuing. However, one thing we are sure about is that it should be something which has not existed in the past. The more you polish something that has never existed before, the more value it brings. We believe that it is important to nurture developers who take this unique concept to heart, allocating funds to development if necessary, and release games only after we are confident in the product, and repeat this process over and over again. On the other hand, in the entertainment business, it is possible to create appealing products based on intriguing ideas without incurring significant costs. Children's toys are a prime example of this. We believe that not all products require large costs. Even in the case of video games, with current technology, it is possible to create fun games with a small number of developers in a short period of time. We believe it is important not to lose sight of this perspective. In the same Q&A, Miyamoto dismissed a question referring him to as a genius, saying new Nintendo employees had referred to the Mario, Zelda, and Pikmin creator as surprisingly normal. Miyamoto has also recently made statements about wanting to be left out of the console wars and said that Nintendo would rather go in a different direction than the rest of the industry when it comes to artificial intelligence. So Miyamoto is, whether he likes it or not, he is a genius. He is one of the reasons why we even have consoles or video games in the first place. If it weren't for him and Nintendo, we wouldn't have all the things that we have now, whether he likes it or not, and I think he should take it as a compliment. This man is a genius, and he is right. Now, video games are going to cost a lot of money, but whether or not that you spend a lot of money on it and you polish it and you're trying something new and things that your developers are passionate about, you should be releasing good things because you should be backing people that have good ideas and that they're passionate about, and help them execute those ideas with not only guidance but with funding and also polish of that game. So he isn't wrong. Like, this isn't 100% true. It really should always be about what you're making and are you passionate about it, and funding that in an appropriate way to be able to make those things come alive. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think Miyamoto is correct? And also, do you think Miyamoto is a genius? Let me know in the comment section below. So Concord is no doubt one of the biggest blunders in gaming and PlayStation history, which is a little sad considering that PlayStation just makes Game of the Year games every single year and every single generation. There's at least 5 or 6 PlayStation games that win Game of the Year games, but Sony says it should have done user testing and internal evaluation earlier on Concord. Sony has reflected on the disastrous launch of the PS5 game Concord, saying it's still learning when it comes to live service games. Concord, a live service hero shooter from Sony-owned Firewalk Studios, has gone down as one of the biggest flops in PlayStation history. Amid disastrous low player numbers, Sony hauled Concord offline just weeks after launch. It eventually shuttered Firewalk and confirmed Concord wouldn't return. It has proven a costly failure for Sony. Concord's initial development deal was around $200 million, according to the report by Kotaku, which cited 2 sources familiar with the agreement. They said that the $200 million was not enough to fund Concord's entire development, nor did they include the purchase of the Concord IP rights or Firewalk Studio itself. Kotaku's number aligns with earlier's report, saying that Probably Monsters, Firewalk's original parent company, raised $200 million in 2021. It all points to Concord's seen as an ambitious project that was expected to attract a large audience. Instead, it launched to tepid reviews and low interest, prompting PlayStation to pull the plug within days of the release. One estimate suggests it sold for around 25,000 copies. MITA research analyst Reyes Elliott told IGN shortly before Concord was shut down, pivoting to live service games is a high-risk, high-reward venture, and the risk highlighting to levels that might not be worth it for many AAA/PC publishers aren't really active in the space. A recent financial call, Sony's president, CEO, and CFO Hideki Toki said that the company has learned lessons from both the record-breaking launch of Helldivers earlier this year and Concord's failure. On Concord specifically, Toki said Sony should have run its development gates such as user testing or internal evaluation much earlier than it did. So before I get into his quote, one of the things that was happening with Concord is that the game had a toxic positivity where you couldn't really critique anything that was going wrong. Like, there was plenty of things to critique about Concord. One of them being is there was no tutorials to show any of the mechanics of how they work. They just expected people to learn how to play it, and that's it. And also, like, there was no critique of how the characters were a little bland. Like, you couldn't just critique it at all. Currently, we are still in the process of learning, Toki said. Basically, with regards to the new IP, of course, you don't know the result until you actually try it. So from our reflection, probably we need to have a lot of gates, including user testing or internal evaluation. And the timing of such gates, we need to bring them forward. We should have done those gates much earlier than we did. The suggestion here from Toki is that Sony should have noticed and reacted to Concord's issues earlier in the development process, presumably so that it could have improved the game before launch. Toki then went on to point fingers at Sony's siloed organization and Concord's windows, which may have caused cannibalization. Concord's launch in August, not long after smash hit Black Myth Wukong. Not only that, but they announced it right next to Marvel Heroes, which is Rivals, I think, which is another hero shooter game. Like, why would you do that? We have siloed organization, so going beyond the boundaries of those organizations in terms of development and also sales. I think that could have been much smoother, Toki said. And then going forward in our own titles and third-party titles, we do have many different windows, and we want to select the right and optimal windows so that we can deploy them on our own platform without cannibalization, so that we can maximize our performance in terms of launches. That's all I have. Of course, Concord's launch into the ultra-competitive live service hero shooter market following the failure of Rocksteady's Suicide Kill the Justice League, which contributed to a $200 million hit to the publisher Warner Brothers revenue. During the same financial call, Sony's senior vice president and IR compared the launches of Helldivers 2 and Concord, saying lessons learned would be shared throughout the business. We launched 2 live service games this year, he said. Helldivers 2 was a huge hit, while Concord ended up being shut down. We gained a lot of experience and learned a lot from both. We intend to share lessons from our successes and failures across our studios, including the areas of title development, management, as well as process of continually adding, expanding content, and scaling the service after its release to strengthen our development management system. We intend to build on an optimum title portfolio during the current mid-range plan period that combines single-player games, which are our strengths and which have higher predictability of becoming hits due to our proven IPs, with live service games that pursue upside while taking on a certain amount of risk upon release. Sony commits to releasing major single-player games every year from 2025 onwards, so what's it cooking? Sony's high-profile live service game struggles have seen the cancellation of Naughty Dog's The Last of Us multiplayer game and most recent disastrous launch of Concord, which resulted in closure of its developer, Firewalk. Amid the turmoil, Sony has reaffirmed it's committed to major single-player games. Speaking during a live service call, Sony's finance and IR chief, Sadehiko, said that while it has no major first-party games coming out before the end of its current financial year ending March 2025, the company plans to continue releasing major single-player game titles every year from its next fiscal year onwards. So what major single-player game does Sony have in the works? In the same financial call, Hiwaka pointed to Sucker Punch's Ghost of Yotei, the sequel to 2020's smash hit Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Yotei, due out at some point in 2025, would certainly qualify as Sony's major single-player games. Sony is also set to publish Kojima Productions' Death Stranding 2 on the Beach as a PlayStation 5 exclusive at some point in 2025, so that's at least 2 next year. Looking further ahead or unannounced 2025 releases, Marvel Spider-Man 2 developer Insomniac has its Wolverine game in the works. That's one that has yet to receive a release window. We know God of War developer Santa Monica has something cooking, and Guerrilla looks to round out the Horizon trilogy with another single-player adventure, although that is reportedly a long ways in the distance. Naughty Dog 2 has multiple single-player games coming out the pipe. Elsewhere, we know Days Gone developer Bend has a new IP up its sleeve, as Little Big Planet and Dreams Maker Media Molecule. Returnal developer Haas Marquette is working on something new as Bluepoint and Firesprite. Polyfolia is no doubt hard at work on Gran Turismo 7, and following the success of Astrobots, all eyes will be on Team Asobi to what it does next. That's a lot in the works of PlayStation Studios to come over the course of the next few years. However many years PlayStation has left before Sony releases inevitable PS6. And throughout it all, Sony's live service push continues, with Guerrilla's online Bungie Marathon and Haven Fair Games all in development. Meanwhile, Sony continues to do deals with external developers that see single-player games launch first on PlayStation 5. For example, a partner with Square Enix for Final Fantasy VII Remake, 16, and 7 Rebirth, Shift Up for Stellar Blade, Game Science for record-breaking Black Myth Wukong, Team Ninja Rise of Ronin, and Bloober's Silent Hill 2. So, while it sounds like PlayStation has learned its lessons, saying that there was a difficult schedule between Concord is not the lesson that you should be learning. What you should be learning from that lesson is instead saying, hey, the reason why this game failed is because we really didn't have a good management system when it came to our live service games, and especially Concord. Especially Concord did not have a good managing strategy when it came to them, because they were just completely missing the point of why that game was bad. It didn't have enough criticism, it didn't have enough construction criticism, what I should say, and it didn't have enough people who were there to say, hey, maybe you should tone down the colors and not make them clash so much, or maybe give these characters a little bit more personality than they have. A lot of things went wrong with this. The gameplay was not one of them. The gameplay was really fun, and I really enjoyed it, but it did have a lot of things that were kind of up in the air of how you even play this game. So while it does seem like they learned their lesson, PlayStation should just do what PlayStation does. Like it said, one of the best things that it's good at is making single player games. Keep doing that and keep cultivating that live service game and having management them properly. It's not easy making live service games. It's the reason why if you don't have live service game experience, you probably are not going to be doing that. And PlayStation is trying to get into that, and there's going to be some rough spots when it comes to doing so. All I hope, and this is the only red flag, and it's a giant red flag, one of the people who said that it was one of his most anticipated games and was kind of his baby as well was Herman. The guy who is now the CEO of PlayStation in general is kind of the guy who backed this game. Herman Hulst is a guy who backed Concord. I really hope that he learns from his mistakes, because he's one of the reasons why these blunders happened. He was the PlayStation studio of PlayStation Games head for that period of time and said nothing and criticized this game at all. That is a giant red flag, and for the people that are seeing Herman Hulst as some kind of savior, I would really tread lightly when it comes to that. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you for watching the Tuesday show. I hope you guys have a great day. This was a giant video, and I hope you guys have a great day. And remember, you're pretty good.